Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's version of Our Ventura. I'm your host, Gabriel, and today we have a wonderful guest. You've probably seen her paintings all over town, Johanna Spinks. She is the fine artist that's doing the portraitures for the face of Ventura. Welcome, Johanna.
Thank you, Gabby. It's nice to be here.
Yes, this is fun. I was waiting to have you, and we're so glad people are curious about your work.
Well, we had a halfway celebration early December, and I think we had painted I had painted 28 sitters by that point, and the response was just phenomenal. We must have had 200 people come through the reception at the Ventura Executive Suites, and a lot of them didn't know me and I didn't know them, which was great because it meant that, you know, I could see the interest in the town was there, and it wasn't from my mailing list, which was great. It was very rewarding, and I really got a sense of, you know, how much some of these portraits mean to people, because, you know, I paint them and the sitter leaves the studio and I move on to something else, you know. So it was lovely to touch base with the public about them and talk and see the reaction. It was very rewarding.
Well, it's wonderful. Let's backtrack.
Yeah.
Let's find out how this whole thing got started. My question to you originally was, why Ventura? How did we get so lucky?
And a few people have asked that. It's a good question. Well, I had a studio in Oxnard, downtown Oxnard, for actually 2 studios, for a period of 3 years. And I had initially thought that I would like to do this kind of project there. One of my painting idols has always been Norman Rockwell. I think he, you know, just did it really better than anybody, and I look to his work a lot to this day. But I was fascinated how he put the people of his town in his paintings, and, you know, the people were able to tell the stories of that long after, you know, the paintings had become famous and Mr. Rockwell passed away. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't that be interesting to paint a slice of a town through my eyes? So I was kind of looking for that town. As I said, I thought Oxnard, but for one reason and another, it didn't happen. I was going to actually do the people of Heritage Square. That was my original idea. And then I moved my studio to Ventura about 2 years ago, and to the Bell Arts Factory there. And I really started to walk around and look. I'd moved to Oxnard to live at that point, and I saw that I had my seaside Norman Rockwell town.
Exactly.
You know, full of character. You know, I was driving today to get here, and I saw a lady on riding a horse with 4 other horses in tow, and she had a sign on, you know, sort of save old horses. I can't remember the exact wording. And I thought, how many towns do you see that in? Mm-hmm. So now I've got to, of course, track her down so she can be one of the faces, because, you know, I got this light bulb. Well, she has to be one. So that's the kind of people you see, you know. It's amazing. So
it really is.
Yeah.
And you've been all over. Your work is featured at the Players Club in New York City.
It is.
Preserved. And you actually did a portrait of Norman Rockwell. Tell us about that.
I did, and it was really, I was so lucky to be asked to do it by my mentor, whose name is Everett Raymond Kinsler.
Oh, yes.
And Mr. Kinsler has painted 7 American presidents in his lifetime, and I think at this point well over 50 cabinet members, and has, you know, scores of paintings in the permanent collection of the Smithsonian.
It's amazing.
He's a most extraordinary man, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here doing any of what I am doing, you know, painting these portrait sketches in 2 hours or a single sitting, without having had some considerable incredible instruction from him and guidance. So anyway, Mr. Kinsler is the art chair of the Players Club. The Players Club is a very old, established New York club centering on the arts. You know, all the great Broadway actors went there.
Right.
Lucille Ball has a ladies' room named after her. And really, you know, the walls just, if only they could talk. It just, the place seeps with history of the arts, writing, all the arts. So Mr. Kinsler started this well, had this idea to paint the portraits of the more well-known members who hadn't been recorded yet. The walls are full of artwork, by the way, at the Players.
Yes.
They have original John Singer Sargent paintings there in the collection. They have amassed quite an amazing art collection. So it is a great privilege to be part of that permanent collection, and I've actually had 5 portraits painted for that collection now, which I'll always remember.
That's wonderful.
We have lovely unveilings for each of them, and they put on a great evening for us artists who have done the portraits, with Broadway performers and dinner, and it's quite a lovely affair. So yes, that's how I got to paint Mr. Rockwell, and it was indeed a challenge, because how do you paint such a magnificent artist, you know, who's done so much around everything you can do with construction and great ideas for paintings. So I was very concerned about that in the beginning. So I just decided to keep it very simple in the end. And I did.
Portraiture was always your thing?
It was. I have done other things in my life. I became a full-time portrait painter in my early 30s, and I'm now in my 50s. So I came to it pretty late, actually, but I have always been around the arts in some way or another. And I had a happy accident, really, in life. I, at the time, was working as a makeup artist in the print and film business. Working with a wonderful agency in LA called Celestine. There were really, at that time, there were only 2 big makeup agencies. One was Celestine and one was Cloutier. And incredible jobs, traveled a lot with it. And then suddenly I got very sick, and I caught some virus, and I couldn't return to work for a while. So I said to my agency, give me 3 months, I'm going to recuperate. And I was missing using the brushes every day. So I thought, well, I'm going to take an art class and do my rehab around that. So I did take the art class, and I hated the first few lessons. I thought, this is not for me at all. You know, that drawing thing was very hard. So stuck with it, because I paid my 8 weeks, so I might as well stay for the 8 weeks, right?
Exactly.
And then by the 8 weeks, I was hooked. I knew very, very early on that I was going to do portraiture. I think having been around lights and photographers, and color, and facial structure, I knew about that from my makeup days. It was a real natural thing for me to do. But I do believe that, you know, and by the way, I do paint other things too. I do still life work and landscape. My mentor has taught me that you have to paint everything. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to do portraits. You want to, as an artist, be exploring yourself to all facets of the thing, you know.
A discipline as well.
Yes, you know, you go and paint the sunset or a bright blue sky, and you study atmosphere, and then you can take that knowledge of atmosphere into the background of your commissioned portrait that's maybe being done from a photo, because oftentimes we do have to work from photos. You know, the bishop can't sit for 6 weeks.
That's right.
So you do have to kind of do it all, really, I think, anyway. So
well, let's go back to the Face of Ventura project.
Yes.
It's so fascinating, and I know there's quite a differentiation between how you do those portraits versus your regular commissioned portrait work.
Yes. My Face of Ventura sitters, and each and every one of them has been so gracious, they come and sit for about 2 to 2.5 hours. It's a single sitting. I don't use any photos at all, no touch-ups afterwards. I'm interested in the direct interaction between myself and the sitter.
You have the eye contact.
Yes, you don't really see a face till you start to paint it. And it has been, I think, rewarding for the sitter, and it's been incredibly rewarding for me. My goal also was to showcase the relevant world of painterly portraiture today. So much portraiture is done from photos, and portrait artists aren't out there life painting and being able to get this essence of a person in front of them down quickly, you know, like Frans Hal, the Dutch painter, would do, you know, 300, 400 years ago, because there were no cameras. And there is just a real connection when that happens, and a closeness that happens very quickly.
Well, I'm going to show one.
Yes,
this is one of your quick portraits, and then we'll show one of your regular portraits.
This is the most recent Face of Ventura. This was done a week or so ago. Sandra Labby, who is well known in the town, a delightful lady. an art patron, has done many things around the town. I think the town knows very well who Sandra is and her work with the Rubicon Theatre, and she was on the list from very early on as a sitter that had to be painted, who contributed an awful lot to Ventura.
And then Sheldon was the first portrait, wasn't
Well,
he?
actually, Sheldon was not the first Face of Ventura sitter. Sheldon popped by my studio. We didn't know each other at the time, and I said, oh, there's an interesting face. I wonder if that gentleman would come and sit for me. So he did one of the first Friday art walk evenings and sat, and then I told him about my idea to paint this seaside Norman Rockwell, and he helped me fine-tune, and really the project would not at this point be the same without Sheldon. He has really been a very creative mind to work with. We have, bi-monthly meetings where we discuss who should sit, who should not sit. And of course, Sheldon knows the town inside out.
He's amazing.
Everyone knows Sheldon.
Everybody loves him.
Yes, so really, he is very important to the project and how it is looking at this point.
And then here is one of the sitting commission work, but this is your daughter, correct?
This is my daughter, so really this wasn't an official commission portrait, obviously, with it being my daughter. This was one of my, quieter paintings when actually I painted that on a New Year's Eve, and I had a house full of people coming for dinner, and I knew I was in the zone, and as artists know that feeling, and my husband was like, please stop painting, but I knew that I had to finish it, and that was a very successful painting for me. That one was given a certificate of excellence by
Beautiful.
American Artist magazine.
Now is this a copy of the original?
Yes, both of these sold. This one is called Heather's Braid, so it was another very lucky painting for me. This one won the De La Rowney Excellence in Painting Award at Oil Painters of America National Show. That's a very beautiful show every year, a prestigious show, and I was very surprised when I got the phone call. So again, not a commission piece. This is something where I'm on my own in the studio painting in my zone. I had painted Heather quite a few times. That was actually a head study for a fully developed portrait. The fully developed portrait did nothing on the art circuit, but that was the head study for the portrait. So. But a commission portrait would take a long time. For instance, when I painted Bishop J. John Bruno, that was a large portrait, and I would say a good 2 months. Gold robes, a 15th century, stuff rod, I think they call them, and
people fly you to go do the commissions.
They do.
It's wonderful.
I have an agency in the South, and I work with them closely. And then the internet's a wonderful thing now with websites and blogs, and I was surprised by the power of websites and things like that to get commissions from that.
Well, this show has gone too fast, but before we wrap up, I would like you to tell your mission statement.
Well, I've taught a lot over the last few years, and the one thing I would really like to say is, don't put off starting to paint, and just pick up the brushes and go for it. I've seen 45-year-old women say, oh, I wish I'd started 20 years ago, and 87-year-old men say, I wish I'd done it sooner. So that's, I think, what I'd really like to say finally.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And you teach at the California Art Institute in Westlake Village.
I do, yes.
So people, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, why not my phone number, which is easiest way, 310-384-7029. And you can also just Google my name, Johanna Spinks, and I'll come right up. Website, blog, have a fun blog called Kiss and Tell. So,
wow. Well, this was great, and the community itself is looking forward to you completing the project, and just for the rest of the year. And your work is everywhere. People are curious. Who is that artist? And I'm so glad that you were able to be our guest today.
Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for another wonderful edition of Our Ventura. I'm Gabriel, saying goodbye and peace.